tea is something you might never imagine. This humble, high mountain leaf, it's been secretly changing humanity for the past 5,000 years. Tea has both built and toppled empires and emperors. It's spread religion. It's created the first multinational corporation. And it's even given women more equality. So tea has even invented what we consider Western modern dating. It's really quite fascinating. And I'm excited to tell you more. But tea has been a profound part of many historical events. And now it's time to knowingly let tea guide us into the newest paradigm shift. My personal love affair with tea, that just goes back to childhood, and it stretches across my whole life. I'm a tea educator, herbalist. I have my own tea company with blends that help people optimize their health, have a gourmet experience, or maybe even better deal with chemotherapy. I've traveled across oceans for tea. I've built a library on it, and I've consulted with the US's oldest specialty tea importer. So I've had a lot of teachings from tea, and I realized there was this like ongoing and hidden plot line from tea. It's somehow been secretly shaping human destiny. So tea is the second most popular drink after water. Camellia sinensis, and it's commonly known as tea. It's been a Chinese tradition since the time of legends, and nearly 5,000 years ago, one legend said that Shennong, the divine farmer emperor, stopped to rest under a tree as he cared for the health of his people. He required everybody to boil water before drinking. Now, waiting for his own water to boil, a leaf fell into the pot. Upon tasting the brew, the emperor knew he had discovered this amazing elixir for health and vitality. So tea first made its way out of China as trade with Mongolians for horses, and then it was gifted to the Tibetans as tribute. This transport of goods by horse became known as the Silk Road. And China tea trade reached as far as Greece in the 2nd century AD. By the 6th century, Arabs controlled the tea trade in the West and thus kept it from finally reaching Europe. So it wasn't called the Dark Ages for nothing. Tea did make its way to many countries throughout Asia through the spread of Buddhism, as tea was also a core component in aiding with the hours of prayer and meditation needed to reach those alert and desired higher spiritual states. You can't become enlightened if you keep falling asleep. So the caffeine in tea is kind of special. Unlike coffee or chocolate, the caffeine in tea is kind of like a bound molecule, meaning time release. So caffeine, humans' most popular personal stimulant, is in a slower dosing form with tea. In the year 804 AD, a very clever Japanese Buddhist monk traveled to China, smuggled out tea seeds, and cultivated the first tea garden outside of China. Eventually, various ingenious souls have pilfered tea out of China to where it now grows commercially in over 60 countries. So let's flash forward a few hundred years, and tea finally makes its way to Europe, not by land, but by sea, with the Dutch, and then the Portuguese. Through this connection, the Portuguese princess, Catherine of Braganza, was going to cement the British fascination with tea when she became wife of of England's King Charles in 1662. Through tea, Queen Catherine also brought this subtle and liberating innovation to old social norms. She taught her courtly ladies the practice of having their own social time over tea. Meanwhile, their male counterparts were still drinking beer and wine at the unofficial seat of government, the local pub. But there was this new place that arose, one of the very few places that women could go without being chaperoned, and they could share the liberty of free speech among equals. usually in the form of gossip, but it became more. The tea house became a place where even single men and women could meet and speak a bit more like equals with less social controls and no stigma of ill repute. So tea became this way to build relationships, the art of conversation, wit, manners, self-comportment. You know, today we think of children's tea sets, they're just cute little toys. No, in actuality, they were just very serious educational tools that had to be mastered in order to literally gain a seat at the adult table. With the progress of tea and tea culture now very firmly in development from the feminine side, a whole glamorous world of furnishings, equipage, and stylish living all evolved along with it. That's right, tea was the hipster desired lifestyle of the 17th century. So with more wealthy and middle classes buying tea in its lifestyle, the poorer classes began to get a taste for the brew too. There was a brisk black market in used tea leaves with price based on how many times the leaf had already been steeped. So tea had created this like perfect storm in a cup of consumers looking to spend money on an unnecessary item because it offered more than just a delicious, healthy beverage. It signaled your graduation out of the last lingerings of Middle Ages mentalities and brought both men and women into the Age of Enlightenment's fashionable new social norms. And as any good business person knows, when you have something that facilitates that kind of aspiration tied to an affordable object, it's time to make some cash. And thus, tea birthed the first multinational corporation, the British East India Company. This inaugural corporation, built on tea, set the tone corporations today are maybe just trying to live up to. It easily invaded many countries all across the East, Africa, and India by setting up harmless factories in port cities by greasing the palms of local leaders. Eventually, the company's factories included their own standing armies, coat of arms, printed their own money, made their own treaties, subjugated local people and resources as labor and inputs, thus wielding power and operating just like a sovereign nation, but without all the responsibility and bother of religion, culture, laws, or having a group of people you are directly answerable to. So the last 150 years of our greed is good corporate capitalism was anointed by tea. The company was incredibly successful. And whenever there's wealth on display, authorities want a part of the action. So King Charles and the English Parliament, they wised up and they started taxing tea with vigor. And what became a strong part of the British economy at all levels of society now was heavily taxed. It created a new black market where fake tea made from all sorts of nefarious materials, it became a menace. So to combat this, consumers wanted a tea that was harder to pollute. And the British East India Company wanted tea that would better stand the really long sea voyage from China. So black tea was born. You see, all tea basically comes from the same plant. It's just how it's processed that creates the varieties. Oxidation, like a cut apple browning, is what makes green tea into oolong tea and eventually black tea. So back to taxing tea. The English people, they had had enough, and as subjects, they deserved their representation to have a say in taxation. Well, the English authority needed money from somewhere, and the American colonies was the obvious choice. And Americans, one thing that does unite us, we hate to be unfairly told what to do. So, of course, Americans started smuggling tea into the country through the Dutch. And the company was rather put out by this and did not want to lose any revenue or deal with pesky colonial upstarts. So the company got the English Parliament to pass the Tea Act of 1773, thus forcing a monopoly on providing the cheapest tea in America. And later that same year, on a December night in the state of Massachusetts, in the Boston City Harbor, a bunch of upstarts disguised like Native Americans boarded 3 of the company's ships and with great rebellious delight dumped all the tea into the sea. It was a tea-fueled slap in the face that ignited the powder keg of the American Revolution. England had become the British Empire, built on a commonwealth of countries, in part through the power of corporate tea, and was now starting to be undone by the very same humble leaf. 19th century, dawn of the industrial age. The middle classes grew more, and the initial social freedoms and, well, sobriety of tea culture that had built over the past 200 years now had a new platform to debut: afternoon tea. Afternoon tea was officially started in the 1840s by Anna Maria, wife of the 7th Duke of Bedford. This more relaxed custom became a low-stress, all-gender get-together and a forerunner of the happy hour. It wasn't just a ladies' affair either. A dapper gentleman would have had his personal blends from both his tobacconist and his tea purveyor. He was called the Darjeeling Man. It was the Darjeeling Man who climbed the world's highest mountains, charted the Arctic poles, and scientifically documented the natural world in evolutionary ways. And he came along way before the Marlboro Man. So before there were cocktail clubs, Match.com, the quintessential and respectable socializer, the place for conversations of discovery, social rung-shattering mobilizer, home for women who would state an opinion, and freedom to choose your love connection, all orbited around the gravitational powerhouse tentpole of tea. So the next time you swipe right, remember that. There are many more fascinating stories on tea's profound impacts to key moments in human history, but it's time to look forward to where tea is silently playing its part to guide us next. You're likely familiar with some of the famously and ever-growing list of physical and mental health benefits of tea. But what I want you to know about is the new paradigm shift that tea is a part of, and what that means to our relationship with this potent plant is one not just of personal health, but also a mission of planetary health. What I call the decarbonization diet is a way not just of eating, but consuming that is both healthy and low impact on the environment. And when you look at your flavored hydration choices from that perspective, there's really only one clear beverage winner. The amount of water, electricity, land, and other resources, your carbon cost, it takes to produce a cup of coffee can be up to 4 times more than tea. So let's get really personal and talk cold, hard cash. Take a moment and ask yourself, how much do you spend on a special coffee or bottled beverage a day? A week? Get that in your mind and multiply it by 52. The average American now spends $1,500 on coffee a year, and that's more than they put into savings. Now add the costs of other specialty bottled beverages, and you're at nearly $3,000. You know what else averages about $3,000 a year in the US? Full tuition and books at community college. Made yourself tea can be cheap as 3 cents a serving. Grocery store boxed bag tea, 25 cents a serving. The agricultural practices, processing, trash, harmful chemicals, elective diseases, and all the other things caused by sodas, energy drinks, and fruitless fruit beverages, they destroy our physical vitality, personal brilliance, discretionary income, and respect for the only home we've got, the earth. Tea is an amazing plant, and it's actually more complex than wine. And it's the tea's leaf that carries that precious cargo of essential oils and nutraceuticals. An overpackaged box of tea dust is still way better than soda, but why not have more? Why not have the genuine article? Premium whole leaf tea is literally the best luxury value on the market today. Consider a quality loose leaf tea brews about 200 cups to the pound. You could buy a $100 a pound tea, it's still 50 cents a cup. Try going to the coffee shop or the vending machine for that. Life is precious and too short for cheap tea, my friends. The secret of tea's mankind manipulations is out. It is now not so secretly guiding us to drink better, drink smarter, drink healthier, and drink from a planet positive choice. I believe that the natural world is like our teachers, and it's helping to guide us. And tea is one of the most profound teachers. Thank you.